Hey everyone, how's everybody doing out there? So you probably read the title, I'm guessing, and you're thinking, what's going on, right? Well, Lucas and I are going to take a little bit of a hiatus from the show. Nothing crazy, basically 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more, but probably 2 weeks. That'll probably be a good amount of time, depending on how everything feels in 2 weeks. I'm gonna try my best not to cry through this episode. So basically, tragedy has struck our lives. I think worse than both of us have ever even, gone through before. This all began in like late October, early November of last year. Okay. So at that time, my dad's best friend passed away, and he knew him for a long time. I'm trying to think here exactly how long. At least 15 years, but I want to say longer. And he was a great guy. And unfortunately, he had gotten sick. It turned into pneumonia, and he eventually, I mean, he went to the hospital, but it was kind of too late at that point, right? So that was the first thing that happened. And then that was relatively quickly followed up by certain events that I won't get into. I won't get that personal, where my dad's girlfriend of 20 years broke up with him. So those were two major things. And, obviously neither of them happened to me specifically, but it certainly affected me deeply because, it's my dad, right? So my heart kind of broke for him in that time. It was also right around that same area of time he had started noticing that he was having trouble speaking at night, right? Like it was like his tongue had gotten bigger in his mouth, and it tended to only happen at nights, which was strange, and nobody else really noticed it. I didn't notice it, but of course, you notice things about your own body first before anybody else does. So, in his words, he said that it was like he sounded like he was drunk, right? And my dad's not somebody that really drinks at all. So that was a little bit alarming. But other than that, it didn't seem like much else was going on, right? A few months passed by. It's not getting any better. It's getting, I don't want to say considerably worse, but it's getting worse. Now he's having trouble speaking during the day, right? Not just at night now. And now other people are starting to notice it. I'm starting to notice it. So he finally got into the doctor. He had an appointment for like 3 months. And, that was the soonest that he could get in, unfortunately. And he finally gets in. He tells them what's wrong. And he's basically told that nothing's wrong other than it might be allergies. So here's some allergy medicine. He was like, all right. So he took the allergy medicine, and nothing really improved. So he went back again, and he was like, I can tell something is wrong. Could I get a referral to an ear, nose, and throat doctor? And they were like, we can do that for sure. I mean, we don't really see the reason to do it, but yeah, sure, we'll do it. So he goes to his ear, nose, and throat doctor. They look at him and they're like, you know what? Here is some antibiotics. Those didn't really help either. They did a little bit, but it didn't clear anything up. Finally, they decide, you know what? We're going to take a camera and stick it into your nose and look down your throat. And when they did that, they noticed that he had some type of mass in his throat. That was particularly scary because, your mind jumps to cancer. Of course, right? How could it not? A number of weeks go by. Finally, they decide to, do a biopsy, which I say finally, it was probably in the works right from the beginning. Just this whole process was just so slow moving, like again, this started in November. Okay. And mind you, during the same period of time, I had my friend, again, not a close friend, don't get me wrong, but I had my friend, Stephen McCullough, get arrested for murdering his pregnant girlfriend. I think his court case is going on right now, but whatever. So that was just another thing going on as well. But back to my dad, he finally got the results of the biopsy. It was cancer, unfortunately. It's an HPV related throat cancer, right? A lot of times when you say throat cancer, people immediately think like, oh, was he a smoker? Which the doctors ask him this all the time. No, he never smoked a day in his life. Not a cigarette, not weed, nothing. Are you a heavy drinker? Like, do you drink just hard liquor? No, just beer every once in a while. So that's where they ended up landing that it was HPV related. And I don't know a whole lot about that virus, but basically it's sexually transmitted and it can take upwards of 30 years to really incubate and turn into cancer if it's going to turn into cancer. I mean, that only happens 10% of the time. But that's what he has. And, he doesn't really know exactly when or where or who from he contracted the actual original virus from. Not that it really even matters, because even who he got it from, they might never get this cancer. They probably won't. Statistically, they probably won't. But the positive side of it is that it's stage 2. It hasn't really spread all that much, though there were some conflicting reports on that with the doctors, but at least everything I know is that it has not gotten into the lymph nodes. It's sort of just all contained within this area. It's 2-inch diameter ball, basically, and that he is going to have to start doing radiation 5 times a week and also chemo on the 5th day. So starting Monday through Friday, he's going to have radiation treatment. And then on Friday, he will have chemo as well. Okay. And their plan is to do this for 5 to 7 weeks. Obviously, that can be adjusted. I've never gone through this before. So if anybody has dealt with this whole situation with a parent or anybody in your life, please comment down below. Let me know. How did it go for you? Was it the same sort of process where doctors were just sort of like, like there was no urgency with this? Like he went in and saw his first doctor February or March, and it wasn't diagnosed until a month ago. And it's now almost June, right? So I don't know. I'm not a doctor though, so maybe that's moving quick. I don't know. The other thing is though that they might not have even ever found it if he didn't ask to even go to a ear, nose, and throat specialist. So it's a little bit worrisome, I guess. I don't know. So as of this moment, he has not started the therapy yet. It's supposed to start at this point now in a week, I believe. And that's changed multiple times. They were talking about starting it, and then they're like, oh, one of your teeth has like a cavity in it, and you had to go to the dentist and have that filled because you can't have any like open holes or abscesses or whatever in that area of the body. And everything should be okay. It should be. Of course, with cancer, you tend to worry anyway, no matter if it was caught early or, stage 2 or higher, whatever, you just tend to worry about that, the possibility of what could happen. And so that's where my primary focus was on. So at least until his treatment started, I was still able to, do this show and not feel like my mind was someplace else. Of course, I constantly am thinking about him, but you know, everything seems, again, knock on wood, everything seems like it's going to be okay. Now, on top of this, I had a old classmate from middle school and high school. I wasn't super close with him, but I did know him, and unfortunately, he committed suicide. And that was just another, blow. Not that I'm trying to, you know, uh, be the one that's like, oh, poor me, right? Because it's not about me, but just another one of those curveballs that, life throws at you. I'm more concerned for his close friends that he had, as well as his family. It's just a lot of really bad shit going on at the same time. Then tragedy befell Lucas, unfortunately. So I'm not going to get into any specific details, but basically, a girl he used to know passed away recently, and he knew her very well. And I'll let him tell that story if he wants to at some point. It's not my place to do it, but that was and is still very hard on him. So, we're surrounded by just a lot of bad stuff going on, right? And I'm not trying to like bitch and moan or complain or whatever. I just want to come on here and just sort of like clue everybody in on where at least my mind is at the moment, okay? Now at that point, you kind of wonder, how could anything get worse than this? And that's a dangerous question to ask. Unfortunately, I've now learned my lesson that you just don't ask that question. Because when you do, more stuff might happen. And more stuff did happen. So this last weekend was Motor City Comic Con. And Saturday came along and it was a lot of fun. I went with my friends Anthony and Alyssa. They are a married couple, and another friend, Ryan, showed up, and it was a good time. Then Sunday morning comes, right? So as I'm recording this, that is just 2 days ago. And I get up because I have to get ready to leave to go to the convention. And I'm in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and there's a hard knock at the door. Okay. And I decided to just ignore it at first because I was like, it's probably somebody trying to sell something or whatever. I'm just gonna ignore it. Then they go and they knock again, and this time it was with some real authority. So I walked over to the window real quick. I looked out, I saw it was a cop car, and then I immediately ran downstairs to open the front door. And it was a police officer, right? He let me know that my stepdad, this is a different person than my dad, of course. My stepdad is my mom's current husband. He had some type of medical emergency at Walmart, and he's letting us know that he's at the hospital and that he's ready to be picked up. Okay. And so I was like, okay, all right, thank you. And the cop was like, I don't know much. Just that, something happened, but he's okay. So don't worry about that. And just, get over to the hospital. And I was like, okay. So I go upstairs and I wake my mom up. and I let her know that, a police officer just arrived and, Jeff is basically, he had some type of medical emergency. He's at the hospital. He's ready to be picked up, whatever. So she gets up, she gets ready, we're not thinking much about it. I mean, he was going to get mulch for the yard, so maybe his back went out, and, any number of things you think could have possibly happened. But you know that he's okay because that's what the police officer said, right? So my mom left, and then I went to Motor City Comic Con, and I didn't even think that, I didn't think twice about it. You know, I figured everything's fine. There was a small medical emergency. My mom's gonna go pick him up, probably bring him back to his car at Walmart, and they were both gonna come home. But I was like, let me know how Jeff's doing and what's going on and whatnot. And she's like, okay, well, And so then I got about like, I don't know, 20 minutes down the road, I got a text message that was from my mom that said, I'm sitting here, I don't know anything yet. And I'm like, okay, just let me know, basically, when you do know anything, right? A little bit further down the road, now I'm like 5 minutes away from the convention center. I'm on the freeway. I get a call from my mom, which is weird. It's like, why didn't she just text me? But, whatever. I answered it, and she is hysterically crying. And she proceeds to tell me that Jeff was not okay. They still don't know if he was arriving to Walmart or leaving Walmart, but he had a massive heart attack and ended up crashing his car. When the paramedics arrived, he was unresponsive and they gave him CPR, and unfortunately, he couldn't be resuscitated. And then my mom says, well, you shouldn't be driving right now. And I'm like, well, I'm in the middle. I'm on the freeway, stuck in traffic. There's no way that I can get out of this. So this is the first time I ever dealt with anything to this extent before. I've dealt with death in my life with my grandma, but she was, in her 90s and she had dementia, and she was in a nursing home. And there was my grandpa who was kind of estranged from the family, so I hadn't seen him for a number of years and all that kind of stuff. So, of course I've dealt with death, but nothing to this extent. And I was just so shocked. So shocked. Again, it was just 2 days ago, and I still am so shocked. But my main priority became my mom. Like, this is her husband. They've been together more than half my life. And it's so unfortunate. So basically, in that situation, I drove to the convention center. My friend Anthony was there. Alyssa chose not to go, but I walked in and I told him everything that happened. And he comforted me, which was great. Um, Not that it necessarily would have mattered, but part of me was like, why did I just turn around right then and there? It's just like I didn't know what to do. I was purely in shock and I didn't know what to do. And then I started thinking about his son and who's going to let him know and whatever. So I leave. I start on the like hour drive coming back. I'm like fighting with myself on whether or not I'm giving too many details or not, but whatever. This is all still very new, but I just felt like I owed it to our subscribers to let everybody know, what's going on. But my mom is devastated. as you would expect. And just such a shock. He was 69 years old, and he didn't take care of his health. Unfortunately, he refused to go to the doctor. He refused to go to the dentist, that kind of thing. And that had been for years and years and years. I don't know if that stemmed from like a bad experience he had or what, but ironically, he worked in the medical field for 40 years. He was a radiology specialist. So you would think out of anybody, that person would be most okay with getting their health checked out, but I guess not. It's just so unfortunate because, they say that heart problems are like the leading cause of men, I believe, and yet they're the most preventable issues you can possibly have. Yeah, it's unfortunate. My life has certainly been turned completely upside down, but I'm more concerned about my mom, and I'm more concerned about Jeff's son. And he knows now, if anybody was wondering. He was stuck in Florida when my mom called him, and he wasn't there for a vacation. He was actually there visiting his mom. And when he and his girlfriend found out about this, they were in the airport about to get on the plane to come back to Michigan. So my heart goes out to him as well. I can be a relatively selfish person. I'll be transparent about that. And I'm just, you know, trying to, as deeply as I possibly can, think of others in this situation with everything. And that goes for my dad as well, dealing with throat cancer, right? So it's like part of me is like, why does shit keep happening to me? And it's like, well, it's not about me. I it has nothing to do with me. It's all these other people. They're really terrible stuff is happening too. And I'm just, I don't know. I am trying to just keep everybody in my thoughts and prayers and all of that. So I think that's really it. He's going to be cremated. He didn't want to serve us. He was an organ donor. That was the whole thing as well. Yeah, so I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his remains have been taken to a funeral home and they're going to be doing the actual cremation. Yeah, really sucks. For quite a few years, because of a multitude of things, I wasn't always super close to Jeff. Um, but he was a constant in my life, and he was just always there. So even if I wasn't talking to him or he wasn't talking to me or whatever, it's like I still knew he was there, and it's just going to be so difficult without him. He wasn't always the easiest person to get along with, but he had a huge heart, and he was incredibly generous. It's very sad. It's very sad. So in conclusion, a lot of people will say, is there anything we can do for you? And I always am just like, no, what could be done? I appreciate the offer, but it's like I have no idea. I have no idea what I need. So I put some thought into this, and whether you are a spiritual or religious person or not at all, I would just ask that you keep my family in your thoughts. If you are religious, keep us in your prayers. And that's really all I can ask for. That, and comment below and let me know about any issues that you're facing at the moment, or if you've gone through anything similar to this, or words of advice, or I just don't know. Whatever. Let me know how your day is going, guy. I don't care. Whatever. I appreciate you watching this video though. And over this short hiatus, like I said, about 2 weeks probably, depending on how everything goes and how I'm feeling, how Lucas is feeling, all that kind of stuff. I plan on finally getting these two tribute episodes out that I've been pushing off. Ironically, I have tragedy at home, and yet I am doing videos about people that I don't know personally, but whatever. It's been way too long, and Kevin Conroy and George P. Wilbur definitely deserve to have their tribute videos out there. Not that anybody's gonna watch them at this point, but whatever. So I plan to edit those in the meantime, and I plan to hopefully get some thumbnails for the episodes out there because I haven't had a lot of time to edit thumbnails, so most of our videos don't have them. I hope to change that within the next couple weeks. But that's all. I appreciate you sticking around, and yeah, just figured I should give everybody an update on what's going on. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you next time, all right? Bye.